Have you ever noticed that the people you once couldn't imagine living without slowly became the people you barely think about today? Not because they changed, but because you finally saw them clearly. There comes a strange moment in life, a moment almost nobody talks about, when your understanding of people quietly begins to replace your need for them. At first, it feels lonely. You start noticing conversations that seem empty, compliments that sound rehearsed, friendships built more on convenience than genuine connection. You begin to hear what isn't being said. You begin to notice the pauses, the envy hidden inside encouragement, the insecurity disguised as confidence, the affection that only exists while you're useful. And something unexpected happens. The more you understand, the quieter you become. Not because you've become cold, but because you've stopped expecting people to be different from who they truly are. Most people believe wisdom makes you more social, more charismatic, more persuasive. But Schopenhauer believed something very different. He believed that real understanding creates distance, not physical distance, psychological distance. Because once you understand what quietly drives human behavior, you stop taking everything personally. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining yourself to people who already decided how they want to see you. And perhaps most importantly, you stop depending on others to confirm your own worth. This isn't pessimism. It isn't misanthropy. It isn't about believing everyone is selfish. It's about seeing human nature without the comforting illusions that most people desperately protect. Because the greatest shock in life is rarely discovering who someone else is. The greatest shock is realizing how much of that person you invented yourself. Think about someone you once admired, maybe a friend, a partner, a colleague, someone you believed truly understood you. Now think carefully. Did they actually change, or did your perception finally catch up with reality? Most people say, "They're not the person I thought they were," but perhaps they always were. The only thing that changed was your ability to see. That realization hurts, because our minds don't simply observe people, they complete them. A smile becomes kindness. Attention becomes loyalty. Shared interests become compatibility. A few moments of generosity become proof of character without realizing it. We write entire stories using only a handful of moments. And then, one day, reality quietly interrupts the story. Arthur Schopenhauer understood something that modern psychology continues to confirm. Human beings rarely experience reality directly. We experience our interpretation of reality. We don't see people exactly as they are. We see them through our desires, our fears, our loneliness, our need to belong. Sometimes, we don't fall in love with a person. We fall in love with the version of them our mind carefully creates. The same happens with friendships, families, co-workers, even mentors. We project meaning where certainty doesn't exist, because uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. But reality has an unusual way of correcting illusions, not through dramatic betrayals, not through loud arguments, usually through small inconsistencies, a compliment that feels slightly forced, a smile that disappears too quickly, a success of yours that receives unexpected silence, a moment when someone else's happiness suddenly becomes inconvenient. Tiny moments, almost invisible, yet they reveal more than years of pleasant conversations. Most people ignore those moments, because acknowledging them means questioning the story they've been telling themselves. And questioning our own beliefs is one of the hardest psychological experiences a human being can face. It's easier to explain away uncomfortable behavior. It's easier to say, "They're just having a bad day. They didn't mean it. I'm probably overthinking." Sometimes that's true. But sometimes, those explanations become emotional anesthesia, protecting us, not from reality, but from seeing it. Schopenhauer believed that suffering doesn't always come from the world itself. Often, It comes from our refusal to see the world without decoration, without fantasy, without hope filling the empty spaces where evidence should have been. That is why wisdom often feels lonely. Not because wise people hate others, but because clarity quietly removes many of the illusions that once made relationships feel effortless. As children, we believe goodness is obvious. As adults, we begin to realize that human beings are far more complicated. Every person carries invisible fears, private ambitions, unspoken comparisons, needs they may never admit, even to themselves. That doesn't make humanity evil. It makes humanity human. And the moment you truly understand that, your relationships begin to change. Not because everyone around you suddenly becomes different, but because your expectations finally become realistic. You stop searching for perfect loyalty, perfect honesty, perfect consistency. Instead, you begin observing patterns, actions, choices, especially when life becomes difficult. Because pressure has a remarkable way of introducing us to the parts of people they never intended to reveal. And this leads to an uncomfortable question. If understanding people slowly frees you from depending on them, then why do so many people spend their entire lives avoiding that understanding? Because sometimes, ignorance feels safer than clarity, but only for a while. There is a reason why some people become quieter as they grow older. It isn't because they have less to say. It's because they've spent enough time watching human behavior to realize that words rarely tell the whole story. Once you begin paying attention, you notice something surprising. People almost never reveal themselves intentionally. They reveal themselves accidentally, not during speeches, not while trying to impress you, but during ordinary moments they never expected to matter. A delayed congratulations, a subtle change in tone after your success. The way someone speaks about people who aren't present. The smile that disappears the second attention shifts away from them. Tiny details, almost invisible, yet they quietly expose an entire inner world. Most people spend years trying to figure out what others are thinking, but they overlook something far more reliable. Behavior. Because behavior has a remarkable quality, it eventually becomes impossible to hide. Someone can control their words for a few minutes, their expressions for a few seconds, but maintaining a false character over months or years requires more energy than almost anyone possesses. Eventually, the mask becomes heavy, and reality begins to leak through the cracks. Schopenhauer believed that beneath every civilized society, the same ancient human drives continue operating: the desire to possess, the fear of losing, the hunger for recognition, the instinct to compare. These forces don't disappear simply because someone appears educated, successful, kind, or spiritually enlightened. They simply become more sophisticated. Sometimes, the most dangerous forms of envy arrive disguised as admiration. The most powerful forms of manipulation arrive disguised as concern, and the deepest insecurities often hide behind the loudest confidence. This doesn't mean you should become suspicious of everyone. It means you should stop assuming appearances are evidence, because appearances are performances. Character reveals itself somewhere else. Think about the people you've trusted most in your life. What convinced you they deserved that trust? Their words, or the consistency of their actions? Most likely, the second, even if you didn't realize it at the time. Real trust is never built in moments of comfort. It is built in moments where someone has every reason to disappoint you and chooses not to. Pressure is one of life's greatest truth-tellers. Pressure removes rehearsed personalities. Pressure strips away social performance. Pressure forces priorities into the open. That is why difficult seasons reveal friendships. Success reveals hidden rivalries. Failure reveals hidden loyalties. And time, perhaps more than anything else, reveals who was only passing through your life and who genuinely intended to stay. The irony is that most people fear being alone, yet they rarely question the quality of the company they keep. They measure relationships by quantity, not depth, by frequency, not sincerity, by familiarity, not truth. But familiarity is not the same as connection. Someone can know you for 20 years and never truly see you. Someone can speak to you every day and still only love the version of you that benefits them. That realization can feel harsh until you recognize something freeing. You don't need everyone to understand you. You only need to stop misunderstanding them. This is where emotional dependence quietly begins to disappear. Not because your heart becomes colder, but because your perception becomes clearer. When you stop expecting people to consistently act against their own interests, you stop feeling shocked when they don't. When you understand that everyone carries invisible fears, hidden ambitions, private wounds, you stop personalizing every disappointment. You begin seeing behavior as information rather than as an attack against your worth. That single shift changes everything. Because emotional suffering often grows from interpretation, not simply from events themselves. Imagine two people receiving the exact same rejection. One immediately concludes, "I'm not good enough." The other quietly wonders, what does this reveal about them and about this situation? The event is identical. The interpretation is completely different. One becomes trapped inside self-doubt. The other becomes curious. Curiosity creates freedom because curiosity observes, while insecurity absorbs. Schopenhauer often suggested that much of human suffering comes from attachment. Attachment to expectations. Attachment to imagined futures. Attachment to the belief that people should behave according to the stories we've written about them. But reality owes us no such agreement. People act according to their own motives, their own fears, their own desires, whether we understand them or not. And once you truly accept that, an unexpected peace begins to appear. You stop trying to force consistency where none exists. You stop negotiating with reality. You stop exhausting yourself trying to decode every mixed signal. Some people reveal exactly who they are, not by what they promise, but by what they repeatedly choose. Perhaps that is why genuinely wise people rarely rush into closeness. Not because they fear intimacy, but because they respect time. Time is impossible to manipulate forever. Time patiently removes every performance, every exaggerated promise, every carefully constructed image. Sooner or later, patterns become impossible to ignore. Not dramatic moments. Patterns. Because isolated actions can deceive. Patterns almost never do. And once you begin trusting patterns more than promises, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing people. You stop trying to earn places where you were never truly valued. You stop confusing attention with respect. You stop confusing affection with dependency. You stop confusing proximity with loyalty. Little by little, the emotional noise inside your mind becomes quieter. Not because the world has changed, but because you finally stopped asking it to be something it never was. And perhaps that is where real freedom quietly begins. There comes a quiet moment when you stop trying to change people, not because you've given up, but because you've finally understood something that changes the way you see the world. People rarely become who you hope they will become. They become more of who they already are. Time doesn't create character, it reveals it. For years, many of us spend our energy trying to explain ourselves, trying to be understood, trying to prove our intentions, trying to convince people that we're worthy of honesty, worthy of loyalty, worthy of love. But eventually, you discover something almost liberating. The people who truly see your value never needed that explanation in the first place, and the people who refuse to see it wouldn't have believed you anyway. That realization changes the direction of your energy. Instead of asking, "How can I make this relationship work?" you begin asking, "What is this relationship actually showing me?" That single question transforms disappointment into awareness, because every interaction becomes information. Every reaction becomes a clue. Every silence, every inconsistency, every unexpected act of kindness, every quiet betrayal. They all become pieces of a larger pattern. And once you learn to see patterns, individual moments lose their power to confuse you. This is why truly perceptive people often appear emotionally calm, not because life has been easier for them, but because they stopped expecting permanence from things that were never permanent. Approval, attention, admiration, popularity. These things rise. They fall. They change with circumstances. If you build your identity on them, your peace will change with them. But if you build your identity on clarity, you carry something no one can easily take away. Schopenhauer believed that much of human suffering begins with dependence. Not only dependence on possessions or success, but dependence on people becoming the version we wish they were. And perhaps that is one of the hardest lessons to accept. You cannot love someone into becoming honest. You cannot sacrifice enough to make someone loyal. You cannot explain enough to make someone understand what they have already chosen not to understand. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is seeing reality without arguing with it. There is an unexpected strength that appears when you stop resisting what people consistently reveal. You no longer feel the need to expose them. You no longer feel the need to win every argument. You no longer waste energy trying to remove every mask, because masks eventually become exhausting. Reality is patient. Time is patient. Patterns are patient. Sooner or later, people introduce themselves, not with their words, but with their choices. Perhaps this is why silence becomes so valuable. Silence creates space. Space to observe. Space to think. Space to notice what noise constantly hides. Many people speak because silence makes them uncomfortable. But those who become comfortable with silence begin noticing what everyone else misses. They notice who listens and who only waits for their turn to speak. They notice who celebrates your success and who quietly withdraws from it. They notice who respects boundaries and who becomes offended by them. Little by little, life stops feeling random. Human behavior becomes less mysterious. Not because people have become predictable, but because your perception has become sharper. Ironically, the more clearly you see people, the more compassion you develop. Not because you excuse harmful behavior, but because you understand that every person is carrying an invisible battle. Some are driven by fear, others by insecurity, others by the endless need to feel important. Some seek admiration, others seek control. Some desperately want to belong, even if it means pretending to be someone they are not. Understanding this doesn't make you naive. It makes you free, because you stop measuring your value by someone else's ability to recognize it. The greatest transformation is not learning how to judge people. It is learning how to stop depending on their approval. That is where emotional independence begins. Not in isolation, not in bitterness, but in clarity. You still appreciate genuine friendship. You still value kindness. You still love deeply, but you no longer confuse attachment with connection. You no longer confuse attention with respect, and you no longer mistake potential for reality. Perhaps this is what Schopenhauer was trying to teach all along. Wisdom is not about becoming cynical. It is about becoming impossible to deceive. Not because you assume the worst about everyone, but because you have learned to observe without illusion, to listen without projection, to care without losing yourself, to love without abandoning your own judgment. And one day, almost without noticing, you'll look back at the people you once desperately needed, the opinions that once controlled your decisions, the approval that once felt essential, and you'll realize nothing around you became lighter. You did, because the more you understand people, the less you expect them to complete you, the less you need them to validate you, the less power they have to disturb your peace. And perhaps That is the quiet freedom Schopenhauer believed was available to anyone who had the courage to see human nature exactly as it is.